Tariffs. You might be asking yourself, what are they? You've probably been watching the news and you've been thinking, why do I need to care? Well, I'm not a political guy. I've tried to stray away from it as far as I could, for as long as I could in my life. But I think it's time to talk about it because there's a lot of uneducated people out there, and you can know enough about it to understand it, to at least present your argument to someone else. You see, tariffs are taxes on other countries, right? So when you are selling something to another country, like your Snapdragon chips or your Sony cameras, etc., you can put a tax on it and have the other country pay a tax just by importing it. If you go to department stores or grocery stores, they tax their food as well. If it comes from another country, that's double. But even if it's in country, well, what do? Well, you could be a farmer and you can sell eggs on the side of the road and maybe you'll get a decent amount of people, or you go commercial, you sell off to a farmer's market, and then you're able to or a farmer's market or a grocery store, then you're gonna be able to sell a lot more eggs, but you gotta pay the price. So overall you make more money, but you gotta give up a little. Hang on, let me make sure this thing's recording right. Perfect. So, you may have been watching the news lately and seeing everyone talk about Trump, whether it's good or bad, President Trump to be exact, and whether or not you feel a certain way about him, it doesn't really matter, because if you notice something, when every president is elected the day of and they start signing off orders, what really changes in your life right then in that moment? Do the egg prices go up or down or whatever? It's all external factors. There's only so much a president can do. They can lead the way forward, but inevitably the world is not for their taking. They're the leader of the free world. That's the title. But are you really changing the world like that? Come on. Let's be realistic. If you know anything about US politics, or you went into one history class and snoozed in it and maybe got it into your subconscious, there is a thing called checks and balances, which means that no matter what president there is, or what people are in the Supreme Court, or what people are in the electoral colleges with the representatives of the states and the Senate and all of that, guess what? Everyone checks each other. All three branches of the government, I think there's three. You've got judicial, the judges and stuff, the Supreme Court, all that. And then you've got the House of Representatives. You've got the Senate and the House of Representatives. I can't remember what that part is called. And then you've got the presidential side, which is the federal government. I think that's how it's worded. Now, all of those are in place for a reason. It's to keep everyone in check. If you are leaning to one side politically and so is this other side, at least the third one is probably neutral, or leaning to another side where you're able to check each other. That's why we work better off than dictators, because, well, it's not just one person determining what everything does, what everything happens as, There's a little bit more choice involved, which is kind of important. And we get to choose every 4 years who we want. That's kind of a big deal too. Now, there's a couple factors at play with the tariffs. But the first thing you have to understand is this. If you were to own 50 acres of property, and you could be entirely self-sufficient and survive, you have a well, you have solar panels, you have electricity and a windmill and all this stuff that you put in yourself. By the way, you're not 100% um, there's no way you could entirely be self-sufficient with electricity, because your solar panels can break eventually, which means you need to order a solar panel off of Amazon, which means you're not entirely independent. So let's screw electricity, let's throw it out the window, and let's say this. Okay, I have a non-electric water well and a creek, so that if the well dries up, I have a creek as well. Hopefully that doesn't dry up. And the well can be pumped, and I made the pump by hand. I dug it out myself. My family's passed it down for generations, and I have a huge family. I have a huge family and a huge community around me of support. I have chickens, I have pigs and goats and steer, and the community and neighborhood around me has their own as well, so that if we ever need to trade amongst ourselves, we can do so. We don't have the most luscious and most amazing house in the world, but it is a nice log cabin with a wood fire and good airflow in the summer months. We like to spend our time in the shade during the summer months while working on whatever. That right there is a self-sufficient life. However, in the modern age, we require more than that, right? Your phone, this selfie stick, this watch that I have on, Samsung watch, the glasses that I'm wearing that are from Florida Tech that I got from China probably, honestly. There's a lot of different things that don't just come from you, they come from places around the country, different businesses, factories, and then those factories require raw materials which have to be mined, taken down. They have to cut down trees to obtain the wood for your, various items and furniture and houses and stuff like that. And it's a very specific process that requires a very specialized manufacturer to obtain said material. I can't just go and start mining copper right now with my shovel and an electromagnet tied to a car battery. It needs more. You need a specific company or a specific group of people that are very good at what they do, and they pass it down for generations. And the more the demand rises, the more money they make, which means they have to be better at what they do. Now, what are you trying to say with that? Well, what I'm trying to say is that tariffs are the same thing, except it goes beyond the country that you're in. It goes into other countries where, let's say, mozzarella cheese, specifically Parmesan cheese. Parmesan cheese is from a very specific place in Italy. I believe it's one location, because the cheese there, the temperature there, the seasons there, the smells, the floral flowers and such, and the wildlife, and the dairy goats, the dairy cows subsist on, all of that factors into the perfect Parmesan cheese, a real Parmesan cheese. So the Parmigiano Reggiano can only be made in that place and certified. That's why it's so expensive, because it's one place. Now you could go make your own Parmesan cheese somewhere else, but it won't be the Parmesan cheese. It's not like there's a patent on it. Actually, there might be. But the point is that if you want that cheese, you're gonna have to pay for it. But on top of that, countries have their own tax, right? So if I go to Italy right now and I ask for that cheese, they need to make a profit. So they'll say, oh yeah, it's this amount. But then if I go to the United States, now it's that cost plus the shipping costs factored in, and also the fact that, man, they had to transport it across the country, and they lost out on money during that time. Because during that time, let's say 6 months in shipping, that cheese has not been able to make them money. They've had to have it sitting in cargo ships, and it had to be nurtured and taken care of to make sure it doesn't go bad or whatever. Or maybe they had to ship it out even faster than they usually do because it might go bad before it can be sold to Americans, something like that. Another thing, Mexico, they have their tequila. The tequila that is made, real tequila, is only made by agave, 100% agave, which is, it looks like aloe, but it's agave. And it has to be made from a very specific plant in a very specific area within Mexico, just like Parmesan cheese from Italy. You can probably get a lot of different tequilas in this world, but ultimately they are not real tequila because they were not made in the right place. Again, tariffs on tariffs on tariffs on top of this stuff. Everyone taxes, everyone takes their cut of the pie, you know? And it's not just about shipping costs, but it's about other factors as well. If you, as a country, want this in your produce and stuff, well, you're going to have to pay for it. Not just the consumer, but the country itself is going to have to pay for it, or the consumer is going to have to take those costs so that the country can make money off of it. However, there are two types of possibilities with the type of product being distributed among countries and states and such, right? You have service industry, which is based on things that have to be done every day or not, and they're non-material. They're not products themselves. They are a service, a plumber, an electrician. These are jobs that require customer service and taking care of someone and doing a specific task. However, when you look at products, that is predominantly a physical, tangible object that can be shipped across seas and sold as a commodity, as a physical, tangible material. It's not a service, it's a product. So once you break it down into two things, you can't exactly put a tariff on service, and the United States is very good on service. A lot of our work is service. You probably work at a service job, customer service or service in general. You probably don't work at a factory. However, in China, it is quite the opposite. A lot of things are made in China, and a lot of things are produced in China, and also their population's higher, so they can do a lot more. Now, the child labor thing is kind of a problem. That's not very cool. That's not very nice. And also, I believe they're under a dictatorship, but I could be off by a little bit there. I will tell you, it's not like our government is set up with the democracy and whatever. Or technically, I think we're a republic, actually. Or republic democracy. However that works. But, you know, we elect our president. 4-year term. You want to come back again? If not, get lost. Okay, move on. Every 2 years for all of our Senate and House of Representatives. I could be way off on this. I think it's 4 years for one of them. Maybe Senate. I'm sorry, it's been a while since U.S. history class. However, what am I trying to get at? With these things, with the tariffs, that's right, China. So, when China is selling us their products, first of all, they're really cheap. Now, they make a lot of stuff, they make a whole lot of it, and they send a whole lot of it this way, and we can get a whole lot of it for really cheap. Probably because they utilize child labor, and the working conditions over there are atrocious. Also, many of the companies over here get taxed so hard by the government that they decide, you know what, we might as well just move to Mexico or China or a lot of other places because, well, the taxes are cheaper, we can make more money, and now all of our jobs have been taken, and maybe a handful of people from this country will move to China and they can make their money over there, but then they're not really our citizens anymore, are they? They're just Chinese citizens. So now our money, our way of making money in this country and keeping the cycle within the country has now been removed, and now we have to pay for said product. Now, quite honestly, this part of the economics just doesn't make sense to me. I understand that cost for money comes with money. Money for a product, you know, it's a value system that says, you know what, gold is worth this much, the American dollar is worth this much. It goes up and down over time. That makes sense. Your cost of a service for a plumber is $100, so American dollar is worth an hour of a plumber's time. Okay, a McDonald's cheeseburger is worth $3, which approximately converts to 3 hours of your time, or oh my gosh, if you make $1 an hour. Okay, we're not being realistic. A McDonald's meal for $20 equates to $20 worth of an hour of your time if you make $20 an hour. That makes sense. When you go between countries, you have different currencies, and that starts to get swayed, because how is the American dollar worth anything in another country if we don't sell any products? We don't sell many products in the United States. All we sell is services. And all of those services stay within our country. Maybe we export a couple cars here and there, but let's be real. No one likes American cars in other countries. Apparently our cars are massive, right? So all of our cars are so big that usually we don't even really mess with them that much. Germany has the car industry for sure, and even they come over here and take our cars too. You know, they take over our car industry as well. Apparently not so much. I just watched a video on that today where the tariffs that we put on German cars absolutely toasted them. Apparently one thing we do have for exports is chicken. So apparently our export of chicken is pretty big, so that's pretty cool. But what I'm saying is, while I do think that we do have some exports, I don't think we have enough. And that's what Trump is saying right now as well. This is not me saying I love or hate Trump. This is just me saying that I agree with that. We should start producing more things here as a country. First of all, I want to be self-sufficient for myself personally, and I want to be able to have a couple acres at my property when I grow up and move out. And you know, I want to be able to have my own chickens with my own eggs and my own garden, so I don't have to go to the store as much, so I can save my money. And ultimately, if something bad was to happen and all the internet and money got cut out of existence, I would be pretty okay living for a while. I would have my own house, I'd have my own way of, you know, getting water and food, and I would be decently okay within my community. You know, and right now in the United States, we don't necessarily have that freedom. Because if China cuts us off right now, I mean, we'd be able to live, but how many foods and stuff is from other countries? No more Parmesan for us, but it goes deeper than that. All the chips for our phones that I think are becoming vital to our survival financially will be gone. The luxuries of life are gone. The chips, that was a big thing. Remember during COVID, 2020, there was a big chip shortage. And you couldn't buy a car to save the life of you. So if you need a big truck for work, and that's your livelihood, you know, maybe you're a truck driver or whatever, you can't get a truck because there's no chips. And the chips that are required in the trucks now, because that's new technology for you, were from China. So the reliance on another country for something that we need can be very detrimental to us as a country, and also personally, whether the costs go up for us and they can charge whatever they want, because, well, who else are we going to talk to? And you'll notice that that's for iPhones too, because, you know, iPhones make a pretty good phone. Samsung makes a pretty good phone. I would say even Google Pixel does. But when you have no other competition and you are the only manufacturer for that product, and there is not either a better product or an alternative that is neutral and on the same level of that product, you have the monopoly. And we're in a point right now where China owns everything. Taiwan owns a lot. So imagine if we got in a war with them, or we were broke at one point, as a country, and we can no longer pay for what we need. Well, that becomes a very big problem, and we can no longer have our phones. I would like to prevent against that and start making stuff on our own again. Because also you have to think about this. Look at all the child labor over there in China. And believe me, it's there. Don't believe anyone else that that's happening. All right? It's not just a stereotype. It's happening. Right? The working conditions not so great. Now imagine this. What if we said, you know what, we're not paying for China anymore. We're going to do it ourselves. We know our labor laws are pretty decent here. So that way, that'll be good. But you also got to think about the climate. A lot of our fossil fuel emissions and a lot of, garbage in the air, by the way, that's a worldwide thing, comes from China. China has a real big problem with that. They do not care about their climate, or at least they're not doing enough to save it. So, if you want to get something done right, you got to do it yourself. And maybe that's the way the United States can roll. If the United States says, you know what, we're going to do it our way. We're not going to have child labor. And we're going to have, semi-decent human beings. Make sure that our climate is in check and nice and safe. That's going to be pretty good. That's good for our environment. That's good for people overall. And maybe they'll work on their, their stuff for child labor. Maybe they'll stop doing that. Because maybe that competition will have to have them compete for products again. Maybe they'll make better products. And that's what we're trying to get at. Competition breeds creation. Good creation, too. Sorry, there's people and I don't want to stop talking. So, and you got to think about two big companies, right? This is easy to think of. You've got iPhone and you've got Samsung. Look at their rivalry. Well, rivalry. Oh my gosh. It's been a long day. I've been talking all day. Now, that rivalry, oh my gosh, and that competition breeds success. Imagine if there's no such thing as iPhone or no such thing as Samsung. The other one would completely dominate the market and your phone would be $3,000 right now. Now, right now it's still $1,200, but I promise you this, in a couple of years' time it will be $3,000 because they'll get away with it. You're reliant on your phone. You can't get away from it. Even if you say, no, I'm not really on my phone that much, you still have it, don't you? You can't have a flip phone. No. In today's day and age, you need a computer by your side at all times. We live in the digital age, and no matter how old you are or young you are, you have to understand that our lives are consumed by technology now. For better or for worse, you better enjoy it because it's here. Now, that being said, how can we do that how are higher tariffs on other countries good for us? In the short term, not so much. It pisses them off. They put counter tariffs on us, so all of our exports have to be higher, which means we make less money as a country, and our companies make less money. But also, we have to pay more for their products. So that really jumps inflation, and you know that paying for more expensive services when everyone's getting screwed by money usually means that we get paid less and we have to pay more. That deficit between living expenses is called inflation, and that's where you get screwed. Part of that philosophy, part of that idea, short term, I can understand that. However, long term, imagine our American companies stepping up and saying, you know what, we're going to make our stuff now. We're going to make it ourselves. We're going to make it better. And eventually, after some investment and some time adjustment, maybe we start making our own chips here. And we start, making our own stuff again. And we start becoming more self-sufficient and less reliant on other countries. That right there will give us the leverage we need back. Because quite honestly, how many things do you have in your possession that when you look on the back say, made in China? You are screwed. We are screwed. We all are. Because if we keep letting this be and just going with the motions on it, we are annihilated. One war with China? All of our weapon systems run on their chips probably. We're screwed. By the way, the DJI drones that everyone uses that has 80% of the market share are made in China, and apparently they had some sketchy spyware in it, and they said no longer gonna happen with us. TikTok, by the way, I'm not sure they're Chinese. They are technically based out of Taiwan. Wait, hang on. I could be wrong on this, but I think that TikTok is based out of Taiwan, but they were affiliated with the Chinese party, maybe, possibly. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, that was a whole problem where they're basically just gonna ban them because they're spying on us or something, or affecting political stuff. But that's besides my point. Tariffs can be used well. Tariffs are a way of motivating us to be self-sufficient on both sides. By motivation, I mean torture. I mean, it's basically torturing us until somebody steps up and starts making companies. So, if you are looking into American companies right now for investment, pick the ones that can survive on their own, that are 100% made in America, and bet on them, because I promise you they're going to skyrocket this year. Now, if you look at the politics behind it, some are saying that some of Donald Trump's friends definitely got a boost in their economic status and made some money on that little transaction, that deal. And you could say that that may be an abuse of power, and you're probably right. Maybe that was a coincidence, or maybe that was a blatant abuse of power. But I truly believe that these tariffs may be valuable to us. It had to be done. We've got too much stuff on us that are saying made in Taiwan, made in China, made in Australia too. I've heard of that too. We are not making enough stuff. We got to start making more. We got to stop outsourcing everything and start making it internally. And ultimately, I think we're going to be better off. We've got robots now. It's going to be not that much work. We just need to, do it right here. And more jobs in the United States for all of our people that are growing in population. We need some more jobs. We need some more stuff to do. We can't just be in the service industry. We got to start making stuff again, And we don't all have to be sitting down at the factory, sitting next to a mold, squishing down a hammer for every pair of sunglasses that comes out of the factory. We got robots for that now. So, as technology advances, we're going to have to do less and less work. Well, physically. But mentally, we're going to need to learn a lot more. So that may be, kind of a problem if you're kind of a thickhead. Anyways, what am I trying to get out here? I think that's everything for tariffs. But anyways, I'll catch you later. I'm going to do some more current topics like this. I think it's kind of fun. Anyways, see ya.